Time. I'm Sandy Robel, your host, and with us today we have Steve Shepard, who's been on who's been on many times, and one of these days he keeps coming on just so I'll get his name right eventually. And he's involved in many different things, and this has not been distributed yet. It's a playbill that will be distributed at Greenfest, plus given out at some other places, and he'll be talking to us about it, and it's called The Good Word. So, Stephen, welcome back to the show again.
Great to be here again.
And what is the good word these days?
The Good Word was developed out of the promoting Greenfest. We have 58 bands showing up to Danbury. They all volunteered to show up and play because they heard about my car project. So we figured, okay, we really need to promote the event, and I was having trouble getting the publicity that I wanted, and I was like, I was the sales manager at the high school newspaper, I give it a shot. So I kind of put together this sheet. It will be the playbill for Greenfest. There'll be 100,000 printed. So we have 58 bands. Each one of the bands gets about 1,000 to distribute amongst their friends in their outlying areas, because we have people coming from New York City and Rhode Island and upstate New York and Pennsylvania. So it's very wide area.
So it would be 58,000 copies right there.
Right there. 30,000 we plan on having just at the event, so that, because we figure it'd probably get close to that over the weekend, and then another at least 12,000 that will get distributed in the greater Danbury area. And those are round numbers. When I say the bands will get 1,000 each, it may be 100. But
depending on how many people.
Majority, end numbers, probably 80,000 in Western Connecticut, from say Waterbury down to Stamford. That's the majority of the market.
And the bands that are playing, let's tell the audience, first of all, when the Greenfest will be. It's coming up quite quickly.
Yes, it is. Kind of under pressure, But June 22nd to the 24th, it'll be at City Center Danbury on the green. And we're crossing our fingers. We should be the very first event on the brand new stage in Bandshell. So it's pretty exciting. In a lot of ways, I'm trying to not have a heart attack over it.
And are they having a new sound system? It's all brand new, or?
We provide the sound system. We have a couple of different vendors coming in to do that. City Center just has the stage and the electric hookups.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
The clamshell has a lighting bar on it, so at least, gets to 10 o'clock at night, we'll have lights so that musicians can see their instruments.
Now, when people go to the Greenfest, is it like the concerts on the green? Should people bring their own chair to listen to the band?
Absolutely, very similar to concerts on the green. And in fact, there's really only two differences. The number one difference is with 58 bands playing over 3 days, it's going to be rapid fire. We'll be operating the stage as stage left and stage right. Stage left, the band will be playing. Stage right, the band will be setting up. Then there'll be a band playing at stage right, and the band and stage left will be setting up, and it'll just go rapid fire all weekend long. The other difference between our event and the concert series is that in between the music playing, we'll be calling the vendors up on stage, and we'll be doing interviews and kind of asking them about the good things that they do to succeed while helping people on the planet. And that was the concept behind Greenfest, and I simply took that concept and threw it into the Good Word, which is doing the same thing. That's not really the first edition, that's really the mock-up that we're going to be using to promote it. I guess I'll say that once, but without numbers. what was my thought? I was afraid to say anything sales related.
Will it be this large?
It will be exactly that size. It will be black and white, but the online version will be a PDF. It'll be in full color. So, difference is that you have 100,000 distribution there, but then there's the online side, and it will go onto our blog. In addition, like the little spaces for the, I can't even go there, right? I'm not going to go there, but because that's sales related. But there's the online, there's the print piece, and you have this much space, and then online, you can put a 2,000-word article on our blog, and then it goes out to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Now, if I want to go online, would I put in greenfest.org or .com or
greenfest.ws, WS, like world site.
Oh, okay.
Is the website. Yeah, all new extensions. Like the good word is thegoodword.me. That's the new extension being promoted by WordPress, and that's the system that we use to operate the blog. We also have thegoodword.info.
Now, if someone doesn't remember, now it's getting more confusing with all these attachments. They're putting different attachments on there. If you just put the good word, you think then
if you put
a number of them would come up and choose?
My background for 16 years, although I've been kind of diverse, my background has really been in developing websites. And what I do better than, frankly, a lot of people in the world is build the back end of websites and be making sure that the coding is done properly and that they're very strong and show up. I've made my living, particularly in real estate, for 12 years because my website was the #1 buyer broker site on Google for 12 years straight. And I just sat there and the leads came in and they went to the website and they went out to my agents and they went to the customers and I got 20% referrals. And I got to go out on the boat with the kids instead of spending the weekend carting people around in the back seat of the car. So I'm really good at that. So if you just type Greenfest Danbury, the Twitter account, there's actually 25 Twitter accounts for Greenfest. And the reason for that is that they're all micro-targeted. You have a Twitter account for Greenfest for holistic, one for yoga, one for massage, one for Reiki, one for healthy, one for energy, one for green, one for sustainable. So it goes out in a very micro-targeted way and hits the different segments that we're looking to attract.
You're really using the web in many
very much.
I'm always fascinated. As many times as we've had you on different shows, whether on Practical Talk Time or on These Days, I always find there's something new that you've worked on or are working on that hasn't been brought out. And I'm thinking, sometimes I feel dizzy after meeting you. There's just so much that's going on. That's just fascinating.
I need to sleep more. I really do.
Well, maybe you'd lose some of your ideas then if you had too much sleep.
Yeah, possibly.
And what about the BIOS organization? That's
the BIOS organization is the parent company. Kind of started out life mowing lawns, got into contract, got into building houses, went from building houses into real estate brokerage, back into building houses, becoming a developer. And as a developer, developed or designed a Green Living Expo, which very much like Greenfest in the paper was going to have all these different pieces that would come together underneath one roof. And when the market crashed and we weren't able to finish the building, I've struggled for the last 4 years trying to figure out, well, how do I take all those pieces and put them back together again if I don't have a roof to hold everybody? And Greenfest was the first concept. Well, I can't bring everybody in underneath my roof to learn about it, but I could invite everybody to this great big party where they're going to have fun to learn about green living. And that's one of the important things that I've learned over the last couple of years is how to mix entertainment with education. And I I got fairly good at it. I started out doing a speaking seminar at the National Association of Realtors convention in Vegas, and then I taught some high school and some elementary school, and went on to actually teaching a master's class in elementary education at Yale just last year, because of my focus on mixing entertainment and education. Mm-hmm. If the audience or the class is dozing off because you're reading from a textbook and they're just bored out of their mind, how are you teaching them?
Right, yes.
If there's a voice, yes, your brain is going to absorb it, but if you're not entertaining them, if you're not holding their attention, they're not tuning into you as completely as they can.
But I'm sure in your background, whether it's making websites or whatever, there comes a time as you mature that there's time I'm sure you had to sit down quietly and actually study, and not everything's always entertaining. But I understand what you're saying.
Absolutely.
To grab people, to get them started, to initiate them into something.
And I'm actually the best example, because I learn slower than 98% of the world. I have traumatic brain injury, and I've had to learn how to relearn how to learn. And that's why this is all really important to me, because I was the guy in college sitting there going, really? What are you talking about? The guy, he's up there, he's rambling on, and it's just boring and dry, and it was easier for me to just go home and try and read the book, but even reading a book is difficult for me. Watch a movie. You know what? I can watch a movie. I actually learn more watching a movie than I do reading a book. Most people are the other way. And
well,
yes, there's a lot more detail in the book. My mind skips over it. My mind, goes and eventually grabs the overall concept and kind of dummies it down and compartmentalizes it and makes it simple.
Sometimes children's books are good for that.
Yeah.
I taught elementary school, and I thought a lot of times, as simple as it seems, I think you feel like you're going to be a fool. You're not going to go and read a children's book, but actually it has right to the core of what the concept they're trying to get across.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And a lot of times you can get something clear.
Dr. Seuss, and you read his stuff. Really read it. He's done a very good job.
Yeah, and I also think a lot of times when we do things, you're saying it took you longer, but I think that way the mind is absorbing and you're making other connections. Obviously, what you're doing, you make a lot of connections and pull everything together. It's just like when they say you cram for a test, you really don't retain it.
Right. And what I've done is I've really immersed myself into the subject, and the subject to me is green living. So instead of just studying home construction, I really got in and dug in and learned about the framing, and then learned about the energy systems. And as I'm learning about the energy systems for housing, the market crashed, so I went over and I started learning about energy systems for cars, and that leads me to energy systems for buildings, and it just keeps spinning around. And then I kind of get into, gee, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm learning, but physically I'm feeling terrible. So I start learning about the holistic side. So it's just totally immersing myself into the overall concept and learning